case that's been with the court since January of 2024. Ms. Crane is here representing the mother, Amber Hoppy, whom I do not see online. Ms. Miller is the attorney and guardian ad litem for the children. I have an Ernice Cornell.
Yes.
Are you with what agency?
I was with Jim's agency, and I was the one that met with her on Saturday for her supervised time with the children.
Okay. So you're, were you doing transport or just supervision of the
Yeah,
visit?
transport and supervision.
Okay. The case manager, Ms. Terry, is here. Did I pronounce your, Ms. Cornell, did I pronounce your name
Yes,
right?
yes, you did.
Mr. Skowronek, the attorney for DFACS, is here. DFACS supervisor, Ms. Long is here. Ms. Ishmael, supervisor, and Ms. Willis with the Department of Corrections, who facilitates inmate participation. The inmate, my records show Mr. Canick, the father, is incarcerated, but I don't see him on the screen. His attorney is Ms. Brinson, who's not here. And the clerk told me that she thought that she had filed a leave of absence or a conflict, maybe not a leave of absence. Mr. Skowronek, did you get a notice of conflict from Ms. Brinson?
Not that I have in my file. It's possible.
I have it. I have a copy of it on the front of the file. Let's see. For today, she had this hearing at 10, and she had a hearing with Judge Roberts in Henry Superior Court at 9. So she very well may be with Judge Roberts across the street.
Okay.
The mother, Amber Hoppy, just joined us.
Yes, sir.
And well, she said she would report here once released. All right. May have inadvertently scheduled this hearing a little later than we should have. Mr. Skowronek, do you contend the 75-day review is 75 days from removal or adjudication? Because this is further than 75 days from removal by about a week and a half or so.
Yeah. Let me look here real quick.
We're perfect if it's 75 days from adjudication, but the clerk tells me she thinks it's supposed to be from removal.
Well, with Jessica, I guess we should defer to her, but let me look at the statute real quick. And
anyway, we're going to review it. And while you're looking, I'm going to put the mother and Ms. Terry and Ms. Cornell and Ms. Long under oath. If y'all all raise your right hands. Ms. Willis, is your inmate, Mr. Canick, not going to join us?
Good morning, Your Honor. My apologies. I just got off the phone with the facility while you all were talking, and they, for some reason, thought it was at 11 o'clock, but they are getting him up.
Oh, okay.
Hopefully in the next 5 minutes.
Okay. Well, we'll hope we got a couple of things to talk about, so maybe we'll be here by then. All right.
Okay.
Thank you. You can take your hands down. Let's wait a minute and see if he can join us pretty quickly. Did you find out, Mr. Skowronek, what your opinion is?
I don't have an opinion at this point, Your Honor. I was looking at 181, and it says that we're supposed to.
This says that all cases of children shall be initially reviewed within 75 days following a child adjudicated dependent's removal from his or her home.
Which code section are you looking at, Your Honor?
1511-216.
I would say 75 days from the date of removal.
Yeah.
That's the way I read that. There should probably be a comma there that there isn't.
Yeah, because it's initially it reads like after adjudication.
If it matters, Your Honor, I know I don't represent the department, but a reading of that without a comma and it saying from the removal of the home and adjudication as dependent would indicate that the 75-day hearing is 75 days from the adjudication of dependency.
Mm-hmm. That's how I read it the first time I read it, but
Right.
then when I reread it, I read it differently. Well, I've always contended we hardly had time. If it's 75 days from removal, you know, we don't have a case plan in place for like maybe a week or two before we're back trying to review what's happened. And depending on how quickly the adjudication takes place. But anyway, we're going to review it as best we can.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, Ms. Crane and I can fight it out. I just, like I said, I don't think anybody objected to that, Your Honor. You certainly can read it both ways, I think, but
Well, the state,
nobody's raised any objection when the court set this
the
hearing.
last couple of years, they've been trying to come up with and now they've got a different system, but they've been trying to figure out a way to track this for all the courts, because apparently, at least anecdotally, there were courts that were not following any of those timelines. They were just having hearings whenever. I don't know. I don't know. We've been pretty methodical about doing it, and this was just a good faith error. But that's why and the clerk's offices had been alerted that the state was going to start auditing through JCATS. All this information has to start going in so they can make sure that the timelines are being followed. All right.
I emailed Ms. Brinson, but haven't gotten a response, so maybe she's still stuck in Judge Roberts.
Yeah. We will, it's 13 after. Let's go ahead and start and just kind of take your time, and hopefully Mr. Kenick will be here very shortly. All right, go ahead and give me the way we do this, folks, is Mr. Scrivonic will give me a report from his having staffed the case with his case managing personnel from the department. And then the case manager will be available for any questions asked from counsel. And then we will proceed to hear from Mom and Dad if Dad comes, and if anything they need to share. And Mom, if I forget to ask you when we come back around to you, don't let me forget, because I know you were in jail the last time I think I saw you. I'm glad to hear you're out of jail, but we need to make sure we have current contact information, address, phone number. Hopefully you've given all that to your case manager, but we need it for our records.
So, Your Honor, the department reports that as to the mother, Ms. Hoppy, she has undergone her assessments. She did the domestic violence, parental fitness, substance abuse, psychological evaluations with Loving Helping Hands. And then with the psychological associates. Loving Helping Hands assessments were completed on January 24th, and the psychological was completed on January 29th. The mother has moved out of state to the department's knowledge, Your Honor. She is currently residing in Port Harbor, Florida, and is not engaged in any services through the department at this time. Ms. Crane had emailed me around the 19th of March and had inquired about the net effect of so whether or not the mother could move out of state. And I replied to her that we couldn't prevent her from moving out of state, but there would obviously be some barriers to providing services to the mother if she chose to do that. There have not, to my knowledge, been any drug screens since we were last in court on the mother. As to the visitation, the mother is currently has supervised visits on Saturdays and Sundays from 10:30 till 2:30, and those visits occur in the community. The department reports that during the visit on or about the 7th of April of this year, the transporter and supervisor of those visits, for whatever reason, and haven't received any information about this, allowed Ryder to ride in the car with the mother. The mother got into a car accident which resulted in the mother being hospitalized, and fentanyl was found in the mother's vehicle. I was advised this morning by Ms. Long that there was a visitation this weekend, and I believe Ms. Corneal is here to testify as to that, where the mother suffered an apparent overdose and while she was visiting with the children. Based on those incidents, Your Honor, at this point, the department would be requesting that the court consider suspending the visitation of the mother until such time as she is engaged in substance abuse, has had some drug screens, and makes further progress on her case plan. She may be working her case plan in Florida. We have not received any evidence of that from either Ms. Crane or her client at this time. As to Mr. Canick, he remains incarcerated. I believe he has a maximum possible release date of 2030 for his criminal charges. He has been scheduled to undergo a DNA test. The department had received or presented the court with an order for DNA testing. The children have undergone their portion of that, and the department is still waiting as to whether or not Mr. Canick has actually undergone his portion of that DNA testing, and we obviously don't have any results back on that at this point. The children are currently placed in the Grant Foster Home. They're attending Greater Minds Learning Academy. The children are currently overdue for both medical and dental visits, and Ms. Grant, the foster mother, is working with AmeriGroups to get a change made for their primary care. Suella underwent a trauma assessment on February 13th. Ryder underwent a Babies Can't Wait assessment on March 1st. Psychological assessment for Suella referral was made on March 27th. And let's see. That is basically the extent of the report that the department has at this time, Your Honor.
Ms. Cherry, is the information relayed by your lawyer in that report true and correct?
Yes, sir.
Anything you want to add?
I would like to add that the children, they were seen on February 21st for both their medical and dental, so that was good.
All right. Where are these supervised visits taking place?
At 64 Veterans Drive. It's a park playground.
Here in the community?
Yes, sir.
So mothers driving up from Florida every other weekend?
I was doing every weekend.
I'm sorry, I thought the caseworker was talking. That's who I was talking to.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes, mom drives up each weekend from Florida for the visits.
Do you know what the distance is from her home in Florida to Henry County?
I'm not sure.
The number of hours?
I'm not sure.
Ms. Hoppy, can you tell us
It's 7 hours.
each way?
Yes, sir.
Do you have family up here?
No, sir.
I mean, in terms of having a place to spend the night and then drive back the next
Oh,
day?
yes. I have somewhere I can stay. Yes.
Friends or family, either one?
Yes, sir.
All right, Ms. Crane, do you have any questions for the case manager?
Your Honor, the only question I have is whether the case manager is aware, has the department made any effort to reach out to Charlotte County in Florida to coordinate services for the mother?
We're working to do so. We were just provided with Ms. Amber's address on April 2nd, so a little over 2 weeks ago. So I'm working to coordinate with them.
Okay. And were you the case manager on March 20th?
Yes,
Okay. Did you receive the text message from Ms. Hoppy that provided her address on March 20th?
I received it on April 2nd.
That's all I have, Your Honor.
All right. Mr. Canick has joined us. Mr. Canick, your lawyer is in another court right now. We waited about 15 minutes and then had to go ahead and get started, but you haven't missed a whole lot other than the kids, that the department is still waiting for you to give the DNA sample so that they can do the DNA paternity tests on the kids. I don't know if anybody's been in touch with you or with if your prison has let you know whether anybody has been in touch with administration about how they can come and do that. Do you know?
I only heard from Miss Terry about them scheduling it, but from an administrative point on my end at the facility here, I haven't heard anything, sir.
Okay. Well, they've got the specimens from both kids. They just need to get the specimen from you so that the stuff can be sent to the lab. It's a mouth swab thing with a giant Q-tip, and they don't draw blood anymore. So they just need to get that and match it all up and let us know whether you are or you aren't. So, Mr. Scrivani, your folks need to go ahead and make arrangements through are you still at Richmond?
Yes, sir.
What's the full name of the facility?
Richmond County Correctional Institution.
Okay. And you will be there until you're discharged unless something.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Your Honor, Ms. Long, I believe, had just sent me a text that says they got an update from the DNA testing provider last week, and they're supposed to have that scheduled for Mr. Canick by the 26th of this month.
Okay. So be on the lookout for them, Mr. Canick.
Okay, yes, sir.
All right.
One other thing I forgot to mention, Your Honor, this is also on for a final disposition as to Mr. Canick. I did just get the proposed case plan from the department this morning. I sent that to Ms. Brinson and to Ms. Schrock, who I thought was the guardian. But what my suggestion would be with regards to that issue is for Ms. Brinson and her client to have 10 days to raise any objections to the proposed case plan. And if they don't, then have the court approve it.
That's fine. Listen, I'm sorry, I didn't look back. Ms. Schrock is the guardian. She must be in court and Ms. Miller is filling in. Is that right, Ms. Miller?
Yes, sir. She's in Judge Roberts.
Okay. I'm sorry. Did I miss associate you with this case in the last case? Were
You did. You said that I was the guardian, but I'm actually just filling in for
Okay.
Owens on both of them.
All right. Don't hesitate to correct me. But all right. Well, let's see. We were asking for questions. You finished your questions, Ms. Crane. Did you have any questions of your case manager, Mr. Scrivani?
I did have a couple of clarification questions, Your Honor. Ms. Terry, you're under oath, so just to go ahead and state your name real briefly.
Naya Terry.
Just to follow up with the mother having moved to Florida, have you received any evidence from the mother that she has engaged in any service providers of her own in the state of Florida at this time?
No.
And you heard that question that Ms. Crane asked you about whether or not the department was going to try to get the local department involved in attempting to provide services with the mother. And you said you've worked on that.
We're working on it. Yes.
All right. Tell the court, if you would, Ms. Terry, what you know about the incident that occurred between when the mother came to visit with the children on or about April 7th of this year.
So I received the email from the transporter. The visit occurred on a Sunday, so my work phone was obviously, off. And she sent the urgent email to please call her. So I gave her a call, and she informed me that Amber and Ryder had been into a car wreck, and it was observed that Amber was overdosed on fentanyl. They found that inside of her purse. And that's pretty much all she told me.
Yeah.
Did
And
she
did
receive
that
charge,
have-
traffic or criminal charges for that incident? Do you know?
I don't believe she was detained, just taken to the hospital to be treated.
Okay.
and did you have an opportunity to speak with Ms. Hoppy after that incident?
I believe we spoke, yes, via phone call, or text message. She disclosed to me that she wanted to go to a rehab to get help. But that's about it.
Okay. And did you ask her about whether or not she was under the influence of any controlled substances during the time of that accident?
I did.
And what was her response?
I don't believe Miss Amber answered. I don't believe she gave a like direct yes or no.
To your knowledge, was the mother, as part of her hospitalization, made to undergo any kind of drug screening?
It wasn't disclosed to me that occurred.
Okay. And was there another incident that occurred with the mother at this weekend's visitation?
Yes, this weekend, the transporter who's logged on today, disclosed to me that Amber kind of passed out during the visit. EMT were called to the scene. It was observed that she had overdosed again, and they gave her Narcan to treat, the overdose. And
Okay, so she was given Narcan to treat the overdose. Is that what I thought that's what you said, but I wasn't sure.
yes,
Okay, when was that visit? Was that Saturday or Sunday?
this was Sunday.
Saturday.
Saturday. I'm sorry, it was Saturday.
Saturday.
Okay, so that would have been the 13th.
Yes.
Yes.
Do you have a discussion with the mother about the incident that occurred during that visit?
Not as of yet, no.
When you had that conversation with Ms. Hoppy following the April 7th hospitalization and driving and car accident and all of that, and the mother reported that she wanted to go to rehab, did the mother give you any reason as to why she wanted to go to rehab?
To get help. That's all she disclosed.
Is the department asking, based on that incident on April 7th and the incident this weekend, that the visitation between the mother and the children at this time be suspended?
Yes.
Since we were in court for the case plan hearing on the 26th of February this year, have you been able to have the mother, Miss Hoppy, undergo a drug screen?
No.
Have you attempted to drug screen her during that time?
So she was incarcerated, and following being released, she relocated to Florida. So I was unable to locate, providers, not having the address, just an abundance of things as to why.
When was she released from jail?
I want to say March 18th. Is that correct, Ms. Hoppy?
Yes.
I don't have any other questions for Ms. Cherry, Your Honor.
I thought the introduction information that Mr. Skowronek presented, Ms. Terry said that she had undergone all of her assessments. Did that include a drug and alcohol assessment?
The initial, yes.
Okay. Did that yield any recommendations for treatment?
There were. She was engaged in substance abuse therapy prior to being in jail.
Okay. What was the nature of the charges that led to her being arrested and sitting in jail?
Violation of probation, to my knowledge, and those were due to the child cruelty charges that that were brought against her. Is that correct, Ms. Hoppy?
Yes.
Okay. Ms. Cornell, you were supervising the visit this weekend where I just heard that mom passed out or went to sleep or,
Yeah.
is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
How long a visit? That's a 6-hour day visit?
It was supposed to be 2 hours,
Okay.
but we ended up staying for 3.5 that day.
But how long did it go before she dozed off?
Where initially when I pull up to the park, we were in the parking lot and she was waiting for us next to her vehicle. And then I proceeded to, bring the kids out the car. And, they were happy to see her. She was very excited to see them and they hugged each other. And, she brought them some snacks. She started to, handing them the snacks. And as I was kind of like trying to talk to her, and she was speaking to me, normally, and then she just started shaking. I would say maybe about 5 to 6 minutes, after I got to the park, she started like shaking. As I'm speaking to her, she started shaking, and then she kind of like her wrist kind of curled up, and then she like just went to sleep, like just leaning on the car. She just kind of like closed her eyes and just went to sleep. And then I proceeded to tap her, call her name, and she was unresponsive. And then, I proceeded to keep doing that for, I would say maybe about 3 minutes or so. And she was still unresponsive, but she was breathing, but unresponsive, not speaking. So that's when I proceeded to call 911. And they were just asking me questions about her, which I didn't know any medical, that she had any medical problems. So I told them I didn't know anything. I just met her that day and they just gave me instructions on what to do. They told me to lay her on the ground flat, just in case if she was having a seizure. But I have some type of medical background. I didn't think she was having a seizure, but I lay her flat down on the floor. Her feet were curled up, her wrists were curled up, and I lay her down. She opened her eyes and she just stared at me, still not able to speak. And then the paramedics came about, I would say maybe 10 minutes, I would say. And then they proceeded to ask me more questions and I didn't know any medical, problems regarding her. So they gave her some oxygen and they checked her blood sugar, blood pressure, they took her vitals, and they just told me that, they gave her Narcan, and then they put her inside of the car, their truck, and they had her in there for, I would say maybe 15 minutes. And they came back and told me that she started to, come back to her senses. She was speaking. And then they told me that she refused to go to the hospital. And that's when one of the paramedics were going through her purse and they find things. They took pictures, but I really can't say that I saw her take anything, or I personally went through her things, because I didn't, but they did. And then they told me that because she refused to go to the hospital, if I can stay with her for as long as I can, just so she can be, she can come back to herself and be able to drive. So she kind of came back to herself. I would say maybe an hour later, and then she was able to spend a lot of time with the kids. So I stayed there for about 3.5 hours. We left about 8:30 and I got there around 5. So we left about 8:30. So she was back to normal, to herself, and speaking normally and playing with the kids and spending time with the kids after that.
So it's after dark when you left.
It wasn't dark. It was actually, no, it wasn't dark. It was starting to get dark, but it wasn't really dark outside.
At 8:30, it's not dark here?
It wasn't dark.
Okay, because I got home about that time last night and it was pretty dark. Okay. How many visits have you supervised total?
Well, I saw her again. We scheduled for Sunday. So when she came on Sunday, we did 2.5 hours, and she was her regular self. She came in, the kids saw her, she played with the kids, she spent time with the kids. She was her normal self. I just noticed that one of her wrists, her right wrist, was kind of like bent, like numb, where she couldn't move it at all. Okay. She told me she woke up that way. She called me that morning and told me she woke up that way, and she was asking me what happened because she doesn't remember. So I just told her the incident that happened, and I had to call 911 and what was done. because she said she don't remember what happened. But she came in on Sunday we started around noon, and we left the park around, let's see, around 2:30. We left the park, and she was her normal self. I didn't notice any unusual, behavior with her. She played with the kids. The kids had a good time, and we left.
Okay. Anybody have any questions for Ms. Cornell?
I do. Ms. Cornell, you said that with the incident that occurred on Sunday, that the mother basically passed out after 5 or 6 minutes. Did the children witness that?
Well, a little bit, yeah. I had to move them because the kids were standing right in front of her. And then she just kind of like, as I'm speaking to her, and she was speaking to the kids, and then the kids were standing there. That's when she kind of like went.
And what was the children's reaction?
Suela just started crying, so I had to move her. And there was somebody else at the park that kind of helped me to kind of like put her in the car, because the Suela witnessed it, and she was crying. And then the next day on Sunday,
I'm asking you about what the children witnessed. Okay, so let's.
So
you said Suela was crying. What about Ryder? Did he observe it? And if he did he have any reaction?
Yes, Suela started crying first. And then when Suela started crying, then Ryder started crying. And then they kept saying, "Mommy is dying." And then I had to remove them real quick because I couldn't, it happened so quickly, so it just happened all of a sudden. So they were standing in front of her.
Okay.
And I would
No,
like
Don't interrupt.
No, Ms. Derry. No other questions, Your Honor.
Anybody else have questions for the witness?
Just one, Your Honor. Were you able to reach the department, ma'am, when this incident on Saturday occurred, to let them know as it was happening, or did you just contacted 911?
Which department?
The Department of Family and Children's Services.
Well, it was Saturday, so I didn't really. I didn't have time to call the department because I didn't know if she was, if it was a medical emergency. I don't know what was happening to her. So I called 911 first.
Okay.
And then after that, I called.
Okay. And after the EMTs assessed her and advised that they administered Narcan, the decision was still made to continue the visit?
Well, I spoke with Miss Terry, and Miss Terry said that it was kind of like it was court order that she continued to see her kids, but the ENT told me that she was fine, and that I just needed to stay with her if I can stay with her. So I stayed with her. She wasn't like to the point where she couldn't speak anymore. She was fine after that.
Okay. Thank you. That's all I have, Your Honor.
Okay. All right. Ms. Cornell, you're welcome to stay to the end, but if we've gotten the information from you that you came to deliver, I'm fine with excusing you. Technically, DFACS asked you to be here, so I guess they could veto the judge and make you stay here.
Oh, well, do I have to stay?
You can be excused.
I said you didn't.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. Have a great day.
Nobody had anything else to ask her?
No, Your Honor.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for coming.
You're welcome. Have a great day.
You too. All right.
Ms. Brinson just emailed me a couple of minutes ago and said she's still stuck over in Superior Court. Just wanted to let the court know
And
that.
tell her that we're giving her 10 days to get with her client about that. Oh, let me ask, Ms. Willis, are you with us?
Yes, Your Honor. Sorry, I was in another court.
They need to send Mr. Kenick a copy of his proposed case plan.
Mhm.
I know y'all have, you're authorized to look at mail unless it's marked from a lawyer. Does his lawyer need to send it to her, or can the caseworker send it directly to him and he get it without, waiting another week or so for them to look through it and make sure there's no contraband or anything?
Would it be a problem to send it to me so I can send it to him, email it to him?
As far as I'm concerned, it wouldn't be. Do you have any problem with that, Mr. Kenick, to expedite getting it to you so you can talk to your lawyer about it before the 10 days is up?
No, I don't have a problem with it.
Okay.
Sir.
I mean, there's maybe some stuff personal about it, but Ms. Willis and them, they deal with so many people, they're not going to pay any attention to any of that. And if they do,
Very
they won't remember it after they looked at it. So, yeah, we'll let it. That's a great idea, Ms. Willis. You need to, Mr. Scrivani, get Ms. Willis's contact information so you can send it to them, so she can get it to the institution and get it to him as soon as possible.
Ms. Willis, can you just send me that? You see the little chat box on the right-hand side? Can you just send
Yes,
that?
sir. I was just getting ready to say that. I will put that in there now.
Where did you
Thank
have
you.
a question, Mr. Kenick?
Yes, if I receive it in email, could it be printed out so I could read through everything?
That's what I'm hoping is how you get it.
Okay.
Will they print it for him, Ms. Willis?
Yes, Your Honor. Absolutely.
Okay, great. All right. Well, I had a few questions for Mom, and she's been anxious to say something. So, do you have anything you want to put your client up for, or just
Yes, Your Honor.
go ahead, and then we'll also you may cover what I wanted to cover.
Ms. Hoppy, you're under oath right now. Have you been in contact with your case manager here in Georgia?
Yes.
Okay. And is it correct that you were released from Henry County Jail on March 18th?
Yes, ma'am.
And how do you communicate with your case manager?
Either phone or text.
Okay. And on March 20th at 9:43 a.m., did you communicate with your case manager regarding your address?
Yes, I did.
And how did you provide that address to the case manager?
I texted to her. It was after a meeting or like a phone conference with her and the supervisor.
Okay. And what address did you send her?
17-3.
What is Port Charlotte near?
It's outside of Tampa, about an hour and a half away.
An hour and a half south, east?
Yeah. Yeah, south.
I didn't know there was an hour and a half south of Florida to go other than the ocean. I didn't know there was that much more land south of Tampa. Okay. Go ahead, Ms. Crane.
Ms. Hoppy, what efforts have you made there in Florida to either receive services or rehabilitation, anything like that?
I haven't done anything there. After the incident on April 7th, I reached out to Right Side Up, which is a rehabilitation program. And I completed an assessment and phone interview. I'm waiting to hear from them today.
Okay. And have you advised the department of this?
Yes, I did.
Is that but is that a program up here or in Florida where you live now?
Up here. It's a program here.
Okay. The name sounded familiar. That's why I wanted to make sure where we were talking.
Yes, sir.
And who did you advise at the department that you had made contact with Right Side Up?
Miss Terry.
Okay. Are there any other options for treatment there for you?
Talking about here or in Florida?
In Florida.
My the last I talked to my dad, he was offering to get me into a program up there if, or down there, I guess, if I need to. But I was going to try here first to be closer to the kids.
Okay, so you are in Georgia right now, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And the right side up, the judge was asking, is that in Georgia or Florida? Because I think we're getting confused here.
Oh, sorry, Georgia.
Because you said down here.
Okay. Well, I believe she said that, Your Honor, because I think she's assuming we know where she is right now. I thought she was in Florida.
I did too. So you're not in Florida, you're in Georgia.
I'm in Georgia right now, yes.
Where in Georgia?
Got to get my car out of impound
Where
today.
in Georgia are you?
I'm in Union City right now,
Where's your car in impound?
in Lithonia.
From the wreck the other day?
Yes, from April 7th.
All right, go ahead, Miss Crane.
How long have you been in Georgia?
Since April 7th.
Since April 7th. And is your case manager aware that you have been in Georgia since April 7th?
I didn't specify that. I was in the hospital until Wednesday, and I told her Thursday that I got discharged.
Okay. Was your case manager aware that you were in the hospital in Georgia?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Did anybody come to give you a drug screen?
The hospital gave me one.
Okay. Did anybody from the department come to give you a drug screen?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Ms. Hoppy, what is the status of your current criminal charges? Do you have a hearing date?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
What are
Oh, I
your
have your
current criminal charges?
Child cruelty 1 and 2. That's what I got the violation of probation for, were the new charges, but I haven't been indicted or haven't got a hearing or anything yet.
Oh, I thought she was referring to charges arising out of the last week or two, but you don't have any charges from that.
No, sir.
Okay. Were you through, Ms. Crane?
Oh, yes, Your Honor. I'm sorry. That was all I had.
So you moved to Florida immediately upon being released from the jail up here on the 18th?
Yes, sir.
So you've been living in Port Charlotte for almost a month?
Yes, sir.
All right. And is this Bay Harbor circle? Is that, are you living by yourself or with an old friend or?
I'm living with my dad.
Okay. Do you have a job?
No, I've been working on that.
Okay. And he offered to help you get into a place down there or up here, whichever you needed.
He didn't specify, but he just said he would be willing to help me try to get into a program.
Okay.
So I figured I would try to get into something in Georgia to be closer to the kids.
Well, why did you leave Georgia when you could have stayed closer to the kids by not moving into Florida?
Because at the time I didn't think I needed a rehab. And because I relapsed, I do need help. And so I'm recognizing that. So I'm trying to get help.
Okay. But what was the thought process that your kids were in foster care in Georgia and you're going to move 7 hours away?
I didn't have anywhere else to go.
Okay. Well, if your dad could help you finance getting into rehab, he couldn't have helped you get on your feet and find an apartment and so you could be 20 minutes from your kids?
He wasn't willing to do that at the time.
Okay. All right. And you have no family up here?
No, sir.
How did you end up in Henry County?
I bought a house in Henry. My dad helped me buy a house in Henry County about 4 years ago.
All right. Do you still own it?
No.
Did you lose it? Did it get foreclosed or did you
He
sell
sold
it?
He sold it while I was in jail.
Oh, his name was on the deed. So he
Yes.
bought it and let you live there.
Yes.
How did you pick Henry County?
I'd already been staying in Riverdale, Georgia for a while, and I was renting there and decided to buy a home or try to buy a home, and he helped me, and Henry County was a beautiful place.
What was your work history? Surely you were working then, weren't you?
Yes, I was working for a vet hospital.
Which hospital?
I was working at Woodland Animal Hospital.
Oh, Animal Hospital. Oh, I know, down in Locust Grove. Mhm. Are you a vet tech or a veterinarian or what?
A vet technician.
Okay. I've taken several of our cats down there after hours, so I can make sure I get my money's worth at what they charge me.
Yeah.
I'm teasing. Well, if you work in the vet business, you know something about medications and I don't think I'm going to tell you anything you don't already know about the horrors of fentanyl. And
I know.
it's a version of Russian roulette if there ever was one. And I just cannot put into words what I'm at a loss. You obviously have a brain, you're articulate, and I know addiction can get the best of all sorts of folks, regardless of how intelligent, articulate, motivated, or unmotivated that they are. But these kids are itty bitties, and you're not going to be around to even see them get through kindergarten.
I know, that's why I get help.
If you don't change. And I know it's easy for me to sit here and tell you to change, and it's not easy. And you've probably been dealing with it long enough to know better than anybody how difficult it is. Have you ever been in residential rehab before for drug or some other drug of choice?
No, I've never had a problem with drugs before.
How did you come to pick fentanyl?
I broke two of my teeth back in October of last year and started taking pain medication for that and got hooked on pain medication and that's how it started.
Goodness. Well, so now the plan is you're going to stay up here and get in rehab and be closer to these kids.
That's a plan.
You really need to, I know you can't make your dad do what he doesn't feel good about doing, and he probably feels a little bit put upon, and hindsight being 2020, he probably maybe feels like somehow he unwittingly facilitated this falling off the cliff by putting you up in a house and being this far away from him and all that stuff. So maybe he may go to the other end and say, I don't want to do anything. You got to do it yourself. Hopefully he won't. But, I really wish you had not left the area and left your kids 7 hours away. But you got to make some decisions, but you're right. You got to take the kids will be taken care of. Unfortunately, the reality is they may not get taken care of by you if you don't get your situation straight. But you've got to right now, and I can tell anybody who drives 7 hours as often as you have to come see these kids for the day, you care about them, you love them, you've shown that, but you got to take care of you. Somebody's taking care of your kids, okay? But if you don't take care of you, you're not going to be around to take care of them later.
No.
So you need to stay in touch. I know you call your caseworker and she's not there to answer the phone every time because she's got umpteen dozen people on her caseload besides you. But you need to stay in touch. They need to know where you are. You need to let her know the minute you get into this right side up, and you need to be making applications at more than one place. And you need to make sure with your case manager that these places are legitimate. And by that, I mean, there are places out there, they'll say, oh yeah, you can come. This is what we do. We'll help you get a job so you can pay and all this stuff. And all they are is a sober living house. Okay, then there's no professional monitoring of treatment or nothing. So, right side up, I've heard of, and I think it's a legitimate program, but I can't swear to that. But you don't want to spend your money and time on something that's not going to, I mean, no, there are no guarantees, but you want your best shot at getting the kind of help that you can get so that you can walk away from fentanyl. I mean, you've had an addiction, you're going to have to fight it the rest of your life, but you'll get the tools and the right kind of program and the right kind of treatment where you can have a fighting chance at beating it and staying clean.
Mm-hmm.
But you got to keep defects in the loop. You can't, and I'm not suggesting you did this, but it sounds like there may have been a few gaps where they didn't know what you were doing or what you were thinking of doing, and they need to be in the loop. Okay?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Kennett, you raised your hand. I think you were raising your hand. Did you have something?
Yes, sir. Is there any type of therapy or anything that you guys offer in regards to her situation? Because I honestly feel like she's guilt-ridden and she's self-sabotaging due to not only the kid situation, but she recently found out that she has cancer, and I don't feel like it's a positive outlook on her health, and she feels kind of like she's gonna die anyway. And she's mentioned to me a couple of times where I was worried that she would, bring harm to herself, and I don't know if that's the situation currently or if she's choosing to do what she's doing in order to self-medicate, or I have no idea, because in 12 years that I've known this woman, I've never known her to be in the state of mind that she is in currently. And I feel like her mental health is so fragile, and honestly I feel like she needs to talk with someone on a professional level.
She had some initial assessments when the case started that I'm sure at least touched upon that, but we may be in a different situation, or she may be in a different situation and frame of mind than she was back when she had those assessments. So I'll have her case manager talk with her and see about having an updated mental health assessment and provide a therapist to talk with her about the situation she's got. I mean, life has its struggles for all of us at times. Sometimes they all pile up at once. Sometimes they come one after another. And I'm sorry to hear that you have other medical issues going on, and you definitely could benefit from, most people, but not everybody, but most people can benefit from somebody they can trust to talk to and kind of air things out. And so we'll see, Ms. Taylor, Ms. Terry, if you would follow up with that issue with the mother. Thank you for sharing that, Mr. Canick. But we need to get, like I said, you need to take care of yourself, and we need to help you take care of yourself. Did anybody else have any questions for Ms. Hoppy?
No, sir.
Sir,
Now, I can't hear you. Ms. Long?
Ms. Long,
Yes, sir. I would like to ask that if mom is here in Georgia and she's apparently staying somewhere, could she provide us that address so that we can,
Sure.
have providers touch bases with her?
Of course. Where are you staying now?
I'm at 71.
You staying with a friend or family or?
I'm actually staying with Devereaux's mom.
Okay. Good.
And Boulder is Bolder?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. The department has asked me to suspend your visits because of what happened. And I'm going to change, it may sound like I'm changing the visits. I'm going to change it, put some restrictions on. Number one, you're not getting behind the wheel of a car with any of these kids in your care for even to crank the engine up. But that doesn't, I mean, I'm just mortified that your kids had to witness you coming within perhaps minutes of not being with us any longer. And thank God for this Miss Cornell, who had the thought processes clicking right to think to call 911 for them to come out. Because who knows? You may have been one of those statistics before the sun set that afternoon. But to tell you, to punish you for that terrible lapse in judgment, even though it's part of an addiction, it's still, it's really punishing your kids. And it's punishing you some, but so I just want there to be a very tight rein on the supervised nature of the visits. But I'm not going to cut them off. Now, I expect whoever is supervising the visits to, and I trust Ms. Cornell in terms of her expertise. If you show up high or impaired because you're using something, then we're going to have a contempt hearing because you will have violated my express order that you must be sober and of all senses and appropriate at a visit. And if you show up high or impaired, then I'm going to put you in jail for violating my order, or at least I'll have that discretion to do that. But that won't punish your kids because they'll just think you had to miss a visit because you were sick. But now the visits are not going to stay the same if you get yourself into rehab or if the department helps you get into residential rehab, which is obviously where you need to be. A lot of rehab places don't let you visit with your kids or with a lot of significant others for like a month or so while you're in the program. So I don't override places. If they tell you you can't see your kids for a month, then that's how we have to do it. Okay? But this schedule that you have now, as long as you're up here and it works, it's okay. But don't delay going to rehab because you'd rather have an extra Saturday or Sunday with your kids. Okay? You do that. Okay? The rehab is the number one priority. Okay?
Yes, sir.
The visits will work themselves out.
Thank you.
I need to go ahead.
I'm assuming by the court stating that the supervisor is authorized to cancel visitation.
Oh, yeah.
If the mother appears impaired.
If you show up like you did the other day, the visit's going to be over. Okay. She's not going to wait. I mean, I have never, and I applaud her for being willing to stay there with you and basically let you have your visit after you were 2 hours late because you were on the verge of dying. and needed medical assistance to regenerate. That's not the term, but I can't think of it. But anyway, so no, you won't. The visit will be over if you show up anywhere close to that. If you show up with a Budweiser breath, your visit is over. If you show up stumbling around, knee walking, you won't have a visit.
Totally understand. I understand.
All right. And that will be in the discretion of the supervisor. And you don't need to argue with them and get in a fuss about it.
Yes, sir.
All right. Now, let me get to my checklist. And I've lost the, oh, here it is. All right. The children obviously remain dependent. Case plan for now, subject to Mr. Canick and his lawyer signing off on the case plan for him. It remains appropriate for reunification. Mom has not been, she's been complying for somebody living 7 hours away. And dad is, as best I can tell, is complying. We haven't really given him anything to do except the DNA so far. And the DNA is, they're having to work through the system to get access to him. So I'm okay with that. There are no recommended changes in the placement. I didn't hear anything other than they were in the
No, sir.
Grant foster home, and that everything's okay there.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Legally required services, any that we're not affording that need to be provided? I
No,
think we're
sir.
gonna be looking at it a little differently. And Mom, hopefully you'll be able to engender the kindness of Mr. Canick's mother so that you can stay in the area. I think everything will go better if you can be up here.
Me too.
That kids are not old enough to talk about independent living. Department has made reasonable efforts to facilitate permanency, and we will review the case. The department's not seeking to terminate, and we will have the date. Oh, I thought I already had it. October 7th is the next judicial review in lieu of panel, which is at 9 o'clock, and we'll do it on Zoom on October the 7th at 9 o'clock. Okay?
Okay.
Any questions? That Mr. Skowronek's going to prepare a proposed order based on what I've ruled on and talked about, and then he'll circulate it to your lawyers, and they'll make any comment if they have any, and then it'll get signed, and then we will mail you copies at these latest addresses. And we have your address at Richmond County, CI, Mr. Canick, and we'll send that to you. Ms. Willis, do you want us to send stuff to you and then you send it to him? Or like when the clerk sends him a copy of this order?
If it is faster, and I don't mind getting it to him.
Well,
I know.
we don't mind doing it that way, but I don't want to burden you with being the intermediary.
No, sir.
case plan
No,
is
that's
kinda
what I'm here
urgent.
for.
Okay, well, the case plan is kind of urgent, so he can have time to give us feedback. The other stuff is just for his informational purposes, and I don't even know if he has a place in his cell or wherever, however he's housed to hold on to paperwork like that. It may just end up going in the trash can. But we always send people, whether they're in jail or at home, we send them copies of everything that goes on in their case.
Right.
So we'll just send that directly to him. And okay. All right. Unless there's anything else, we can adjourn. Anything?
No,
All right.
sir.
Ms. Hoppy, stay in touch and let your caseworker know as things develop.
Yes,
And-
sir.
All right. Y'all take care.
Okay.
Thank
Thank you.